Kristian Garic Show, where free speech is not just encouraged, it's defended. Call Kristian 504-556-9696.
Last night at the DNC, Donald Trump was mentioned 147 times by the Democrats. The economy was mentioned 27 times. The border 8 times, crime 6 times, prices 5 times, inflation just 3 times. Priorities, folks, priorities. And that's from a party that doesn't have anything to run on. That's why they attacked Donald Trump. For the last 2 weeks, he's been on a hiatus. He's back now. Chase Spears, contributor here to the show, also retired Army major and contributor to AmericanMind.org. Chase, glad to have you back.
Kristian, it's great to be back with you, buddy. How have things been the last couple of weeks?
Oh, I haven't been short on material, that's for sure. There's plenty to talk about these days.
No, yeah, absolutely, no doubt. It was nice to get away with my sons for a couple of weeks, but as I got back and kind of started looking at the lay of the land, I realized, whoa, what a time we are in. What a time we are in. Lots to chew on. I was watching a little bit of Biden's speech last night at the DNC convention, and it was interesting to see him talk about his love for America and how he loves America, while he's not talking about the fact that he spent most of his time in office calling over half the nation violent extremists. He's not talking about the fact that he emplaced a Secretary of Defense that on day one called those of us who raised our right hands and served honorably in the military as extremists. He doesn't want to touch inflation. He doesn't want to touch the border. And add to that the fact that they have brought in Kamala Harris. She was not voted for in the primaries. She was appointed by the donor class. That's not what we call democracy. That's what we call oligarchy. And yet supposedly a vote for her is supposed to be a vote for democracy. So it's really interesting to watch how they are rapidly changing the messaging, how just 1 month ago, Kamala Harris went from being one of the most unliked Democrats in the party, someone who they did not want to put up for election, to a month later, she's supposed to be the savior of the nation. She is the one who apparently is bringing joy to the election. It's a case study in the power of mass media to shape perceptions and to shape narratives, and we're watching it happen in real time.
We are. Here's one of the many debunked lies that Joe Biden peddled last night about Joe Biden. It's been debunked countless times. Listen.
When the president was asked what he thought had happened, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides. My God." That's what he said. That is what he said and what he meant.
Oh, boy. Every lie that Joe has told about Trump over the years was in that speech last night, Chase.
That's the thing about Joe Biden. It's hard to figure out whether to be mad at the man or whether to pity the man, because he has no concept of honesty. He has no respect for honesty. For him, he grafts on to whatever saying works the best for him, whatever saying demonizes his opponent the most, and he runs with it. And for all I know, he may have convinced himself that these things are true, even though when he initially looks at it, he knows them to be untrue. But this is a classic case study Joe Biden. This is who he has been his entire life. This is who he was as a senator. This is who he was as a law school student. He was known to be a cheater there. He was known to be a liar there. And he's lied his entire time as president. And, of course, once you develop that habit, it's not surprising to see that he will continue lying now going into the election. And he will continue lying when he gets into whatever book deals or speaking gigs that his handlers allow him to do afterwards. It's on one hand, it's frustrating because I look at a man and I expect a man to have honor. I expect a man to have some level of integrity, some level of conscience. But on the other hand, I can't help but feel pity for the man because he's just so far removed from the truth, and anyone who is paying any attention knows that and doesn't have any regard for what he says, because they know you can't hardly trust anything the man would say, even if his tongue came notarized. And so it's just the continued public humiliation of Joe Biden, and he rightfully will go down in history as someone who wouldn't recognize the truth if it slapped him in the face.
Getting into some of the notes that you sent over to me, Chase's notebook, if you will. The Army adopted a new extremist policy that essentially makes expression of belief aligned with Christian understanding punishable. Explain that. Tell me about that.
This really should have the attention of every single American. I mentioned earlier that Lloyd Austin on day one as Secretary of Defense, this was Biden's nominee to be the Secretary of Defense. Day one, he came in and said, the military is full of extremists, and we're going to have an extremist stand down, and we're going to root out all these extremists in the military. This is the same military, by the way, that made him a 4-star general when he was serving on active duty. And that lie has been debunked time and time and time again. But now, just recently, the Army came out with a new extremist policy. And there are a couple of good things in it, but overwhelmingly, it's bad. I'll read to you one line from it right now. This is under the paragraph of what is considered extremist activities, advocating widespread unlawful discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including pregnancy, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Kristian, a commander reading this could truly interpret that if he had a soldier protesting peacefully at an abortion clinic or trying to do outreach to members of the homosexual community to help them, that would be engaging in extremism. The whole spirit of this policy really essentially boils down to if you are on the side of anything slightly to the right of the full-blown progressive movement, that you can rightly be looked at as an extremist, and you should be handled and treated as an extremist. Furthermore, this policy really takes away the whole notion of innocent until proven guilty. If a soldier is accused of something that falls within what a commander could try to tie to extremism through this very wide open regulation, the commander doesn't have to prove that the soldier engaged in extremism to put a complaint in the system. The soldier is going to have something in the system regardless, one way or another. So it really comes down to commanders are being pressured to validate findings of extremism against troops. And I mean, that just is so problematic from a constitutional perspective. If this is the way you're going to have the military going, you're not going to have a military that will defend the Constitution and defend the public.
Chase Spears, retired Army major, contributor here to the show. Also, check them out, AmericanMind.org. Another one that you brought to my attention was a woman named to the top spot is relieved by the Army. Command Sergeant Major Veronica Knapp was made the first female Command Sergeant Major of the 101st Airborne Division, which is a massive, massive deal. Let's talk about that for a second. What happened there?
Well, see, Kristian, this is a challenge. We don't know exactly what happened because whenever the Army relieves a senior official, they cloak it in language of we lost trust and confidence and faith in the senior leader, and so we have officially relieved them. I can't prove this. Word on the street that I get from talking to folks that I still know in the ranks say it had to do with some form of sexual indiscretion, but we don't know for certain because, again, the Army doesn't tell us any reason why. And the Army's excuse is, well, we don't want to hang a scarlet letter around the necks of these people. But bottom line is, if you stay in the military that long to reach that level of rank and that level of position, and you're pushing to be in that level of position, you have earned that level of public scrutiny. You are not made the Command Sergeant Major of the 101st Airborne Division and then the National Capital Region of Washington, D.C. by accident. You were not forced into that against your will. Traditionally, males are the ones who are selected to be the Command Sergeant Major of infantry divisions like the 101st. Sergeant Major Knapp was put in that position purely because of politics, and that's been an increasing thing where we are putting female non-infantry, non-combat arms senior non-commissioned officers into the senior combat arms leadership roles, purely because of politics. And she got through that and was advanced to another senior high-level position of the Military District of Washington. And we've seen that happen several times in the last few years where women were pushed into these high-level positions and then they were ultimately relieved. But the Army likes to talk about the fact that they're putting them in these high positions, but then when it doesn't work out, they don't want to talk about why. And I can tell you it's not a matter that the Army is taking casually because the Army wants to put these women in these high positions in order to be seen as following the political will of the current elite. And so clearly something's going on, but we're not going to know about it unless we have a change of administration and the Army is willing to start talking.
Chase Spears, sit tight, retired Army major, contributor here to the show. Also find him at AmericanMind.org. This is the Kristian Garic Show, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Kristian Garic Show. Pro-American conversation happens here. Speak freely and call Kristian at 504-556-9696.
All right, back here on the Kristian Garic Show, Chase Spears is alongside, retired Army Major and contributor here to the show, along with at AmericanMind.org. Chase, what'd you do with your sons? Tell me about the time off you took and what you guys did.
No, thanks, Kristian. I tell you what, it was a great time to get away. I did 20 years in the Army, and it was hard at times to kind of carve out time to just do something special with my boys with the deployment schedule, the training schedule, the responsibilities of being an officer. And so a few weeks after I retired, we sat down and started talking about some fun ideas, some ways we might kind of catch up on some lost time. And I don't know about you and your kids, but I love touring old museum warships. My dad took me to see the USS Alabama down there in Mobile Bay when I was a boy, and I just love seeing that stuff. And I've gone to several ships over the course of my life. A lot of times when I was on military travel, I'd be near the coast and I'd go see some boats. And I just recently found out that my sons also have a fascination with naval history, kind of something that I didn't know about when they were younger or it developed as they got into their older teen years. And so we hatched a plan. We said, let's go see some museum warships. We were originally going to go out east, but my wife said, babe, they've never seen the West Coast. Why don't you do West Coast this time? And I thought that was just a wonderful idea. So we flew out to San Diego. I spent some time at the USS Midway, which is a phenomenal attraction to go see. It's a retired aircraft carrier. A lot of Top Gun history on the boat as well, named for the Battle of Midway. So a lot of good historical information about that World War II battle that really changed the tide of the war in the Pacific as well. We also spent a little bit of time at SeaWorld. And then from there, we drove up to the Los Angeles area, visited the Queen Mary, the old Royal Mail steamer. Just now an attraction there in Long Beach. It's the only remaining transatlantic steamliner that's preserved as a museum ship in the U.S. So it's just a phenomenal way to kind of step back into the 1930s. We also visited the USS Iowa battleship there at Los Angeles, and then spent some time at the California Space and Science Center, which is where the Space Shuttle Endeavour is. Of course, I'm a big aerospace nerd, so that's right up my alley. The Endeavour is currently closed because they're building the museum around it, but we still got to see a lot of the artifacts from the space program there. And from there, we went to Vegas because why not? We were in the neighborhood, and so took them out to Vegas. We went and saw Piff the Magic Dragon together and walked the strip and had some great food and then flew home. So it was a great time to get away, a wonderful way to kind of put our toes in the water, see the beach a little bit, and reconnect as father-son and make some new memories. And so I'm really glad that we had the time to do it and that they could make the time on their schedules as well.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Actually, I'm not a submarine or a naval history geek like you might be, but I am. It's important to me for my kids to appreciate the history in our country. My dad and I have talked about taking my younger two boys to Mount Rushmore, potentially next summer. I'd like to take them to Gettysburg to appreciate that. So that's on the horizon, if you will, for the Garic boys to go check out. So we'll see if we can make that happen. But that sounds like a great time.
Man, that'd be great. I have visited both Rushmore. I've been to Gettysburg several times because I used to be stationed up in the D.C. area, and it's not that far of a drive away. And highly recommend both. Those are both great places to make memories and learn more about the history of the nation.
Let's get back to the pressing issues currently. I'm getting tired of Democrats. I'm getting tired of Republicans like Mike Johnson and Lindsey Graham in particular, throwing out these notions that if Donald Trump doesn't get back on focus, he's going to lose the election. Now, they have fears that the Republicans are going to lose the election. That's because down ballot Republicans are not doing well at communicating the message themselves. This is who Donald Trump is. So the idea that he's going to be off script or off message, it's just silly to say in public. Let him do what he does. He's very good at offense.
And my question to these Republican establishment leaders is, do you want to win? Do you want to win? The other side is united. The other side knows they have a deeply flawed candidate. They know it. And yet they're still supporting their deeply flawed candidate. We have a candidate that doesn't fit the traditional mold, but you know what? He's who the voters chose through the primary cycle. At least the voters chose our candidate through the primary. The Democrats just had their donor class choose who's going to be their candidate. Mike Johnson and other people, Lindsey Graham, they would really do us all a service by trying to get behind President Trump, by trying to assist his campaign instead of going out and continuing to grease the skids with their friends on the D.C. morning talk show circuit. This is too high of a risk election to play politics as usual. They need to stop worrying about whether they're going to have a seat at the cocktail party and actually get behind the candidate. Do you want to win, or do you want to do a lot of TV time? I got to tell you, I'm much more interested in winning, and I wish they would be as well.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Just let him do what he has to do. He knows he's done this. He's done this for a while now, and it's been pretty effective. There's a reason why he's very, very popular. And I understand the notion, Chase, that he needs to reach people that are independents. I don't know that I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is Trump knows how to connect with people. He doesn't connect with them in the way that I would connect with them. He does connect with them in the way that you would connect with them. He's by no means perfect. There are a lot of things that Trump needs advice on. But again, get behind closed doors and give that advice. Trump has plenty enough people working against him in the press. He has plenty enough people working against him in the administrative state. You would think that the one place you would be able to find support as a candidate running for office would be with your own party. Does the Republican National Convention want to have a Harris-Walz administration? Golly, I sure hope not. Well, they need to start acting like it.
Chase Spears, retired Army major, contributor here to the program, and also AmericanMind.org. Check him out. Does great work. Chase, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.
You too. All right, 1 hour down, one more to go. This is the Kristian Garic Show, making radio great again.